Okay, welcome back to our coaching conversations. It's indeed my pleasure to have one of our coaches, John Shull, to talk to us about Joseph Grenny's book, Crucial Conversations. This is a great book and focuses on the kinds of conversations that people sometimes are a little hesitant to have with people. And John and I both have read this book, and John has done a book review for the coaches. So I want to ask him a couple of questions. And the first one, John, what's the relevance of crucial conversations to the business coaching profession?
Well, hi, Jim. How are you? Good to be with you. I would say that the most important thing about the book to coaches is that we often deal with emotional clients, deal with clients that have a combination of either personal crises that roll over into their businesses or business crises that affect everything they do, and they can't always articulate those issues and those crises. And so our job as coaches is to help them with those conversations, and help them have similar conversations with their own teams.
Excellent. What would be the definition of a crucial conversation?
Granny says that there are three pieces, very simple pieces to a crucial conversation. And they don't all have to be present. Only one of them really needs to be present. But the first one is when opinions differ, when people are discussing something that they don't agree on. For example, you're talking to your boss and you think you need a raise and she doesn't. At that point, that could be where opinions vary, you disagree. The second definition that Grenny provides for crucial conversations is when stakes are high. For example, you're dealing with a client and the company that they lead is in trouble. And they're very concerned about it. You can tell by their emotional tone, by their attitude, their method, their focus, that the stakes are high. And the third characteristic of a crucial conversation is when emotions run high, specifically when you have to make a decision, for example, to fire an employee, when you're in a position to do something very difficult that is not strictly rational.
Yeah, these are important times for conversations, and often we're not ready or willing to, our coachees are not ready or willing to have those kinds of conversations and need our guidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, would you give me an example of a crucial conversation in your life?
Sure. This is not a business coaching example, but I think all crucial conversations have these basic characteristics. I was on active duty in the Army for 21 years, and one of my duties in the middle of my career was to teach at West Point at the U.S. Military Academy. As most people know, in 1976, all the military academies admitted women for the first time. Congress approved women to attend, and at that time, about 150 women entered West Point, 1976. I got there in 1980, right after the first class graduated. At that time, I was teaching Russian language, had many women students, and they were all very sharp. But these, what I call pioneer women, were under incredible stress. They were under incredible pressure, both from their peers, their classmates, from upper class cadets, and from the academy itself. Everyone was getting used to this new idea of women in the military, especially at the academies. So women would approach me and say to me, what should I do? Should I stay or should I leave? It'd be much more attractive to go to Michigan State or Kansas State or UCLA or someplace and have a much better social life and a much better academic experience. In the beginning, in those very typically crucial conversations affecting their futures, I would weigh these decisions with these young women and say, well, there are pros and cons, and maybe you should do this and maybe you should do that. And about oh, I would say at least half of them stayed, but a lot of them left. Well, I had a wonderful conversation with my wife, Ellen, who often spoke with me about my work. And she said to me one day, what do you think these women are really asking you? And I said, "Oh, I don't understand. What do you mean?" She said, well, I think they're really saying, why should I stay? And it's a really subtle difference, but
Mm-hmm.
what I inferred from that is an example from my own life. As a cadet myself, 15 years earlier, I asked those same questions about my own future at West Point. I talked to my classmates, the people I trusted the most, and we all shared those questions. And I made the decision that for me it was the right decision to stay. But that gave me some insight. So I went back to these same women as they came and approached me with these questions and said, you've been through the worst of it. These are usually sophomores or juniors. You've been through most of what you're going to have to put up with, and you're amazing young women. You should stay for the good of the Army, for the good of the nation. And after that, everybody stayed. Now, I made that judgment. It wasn't that I was so successful at it. I made the judgment before I talked to them that these were going to be great officers. And the really fun part of the story is that I still know some of them. And I'm having dinner in about 2 weeks here in the Washington area with one of those graduates. So it was a very crucial conversation. Had really at least two of the characteristics that Granny describes. The stakes were high and the emotions were high. So that was a very, very solid example of a crucial conversation in my life.
That was great wisdom from your wife, because if we have a glass that up to the midpoint there's liquid in it, we can look at it as being half empty or half full.
That's
And
right.
so why should I leave? That's half empty. Why should I stay? It's half full.
That's right.
And they're different discussions. And really, these ladies had qualified to be at West Point. And
Yeah.
by the way, I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1976. So I was the very last class of all males, and then the women came in
Yeah.
in the summer of 76. So next summer, 50th anniversary of women being there. But and I was excited about it because I felt like the services would benefit greatly from having those exceptional women because of the screening process. And by the way, leaving, as you said, for a better social life, I'm not sure, maybe at West Point, the academics were probably better somewhere else, but not at the Naval Academy. So I think even the males were challenged with those same questions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt.
Right.
It was difficult. It was, I think perhaps the science, math, science, engineering curriculum at the Naval Academy was slightly more rigorous
Yeah.
than West Point. But all the three academies, including the Air Force Academy, all of them had rigorous focus on math, science, engineering. So
Yeah.
those were challenging to begin with. But I think the big difference was social for all the
Yep.
academies at that time. That just such a different environment and challenging. And Granny goes on to talk about what he calls the 5 things that you can do or you should do to approach a crucial conversation. He says the first thing is just start with the facts.
Mhm.
When I read the book, I took the example I just gave you and evaluated my own performance, because Granny's book came out in 2002, way after the conversations I had with
Right.
these young women at West Point. So he said, start with the facts, define the main issues of the conversation. And I did that. I explained to them, I know what you've been through. This has been my experience at West Point. Let's compare that and be objective. And then the second thing he tells us to do is tell your story. In other words, describe, in my case, I describe my own journey at West Point. The third thing he says is ask for the other person's point of view. What's your perspective? My question of them is, so tell me what your experience has been. And you've gotten through so much of it. Uh, what's the prize at the end of this? The prize is a commission in the Army. And then he says, blend confidence and humility. And the last thing he said, probably the most important one, is make the conversation safe. And that means establish a mutual purpose and a common outcomes. And those are things that I think I did in that conversation.
You definitely did it, John, and thank you for helping them out during that time. But that's you. You give back. And this has been a great coaching conversation. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Jim. Great to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.